Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who has never said a bad word about Russell Wilson. Kyle, how are you doing?
uh, Doing pretty good. It looked dangerous there for a second, but then he came alive, man. What a performance in the second half.
Yeah, well, crazy stuff. Kyle, a very fun week here. I don't think this was not A tier, but this was like a solid week of football here. I think the afternoon slate wasn't that great, and unfortunately, the Sunday night game kind of got away in the fourth quarter. But it's still a lot of fun things happening throughout the week.
Yeah, I mean, even beyond football, it was a great sports weekend. We had a game 5 tonight. We had a World Series clincher tonight. Those aren't the same things.
Yeah.
We had some really compelling stuff going on. So it was all going on, and then there were some good games though. I mean, we saw a lot of A-list level games that played out today. So I felt like we learned a lot from some teams this week.
I agree. Let's just start off. Let's just get into it. We don't need to ramble too long. With the Jets Steelers, as always, we start off with the Sunday night game. And there was a point when this just felt like the way this was going was the storyline was going to be Mike Tomlin. What were you thinking putting Russell Wilson in? He didn't start off particularly great. The Jets climbed up to a 15 to 6 lead in the late in the second quarter. They had the ball for about a minute left, and they were getting the ball to receive in the third quarter. It kind of felt like it was going to be over. Rodgers throws an interception, which leads to ultimately a touchdown by the Steelers, and they kind of get rolling off of that. They end up with 31 unanswered points, winning this game 37-15. Let's start with the positives. Let's start with Russell Wilson. Kyle, what was your thoughts on his performance tonight?
It couldn't have looked worse in the first half. There was a time where he was like 2 of 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, like, he just kind of locked in. Like, I don't know. It felt like as soon as he hit that pass to Pickens, the 44-yard pass, I think it was late in the first half. That was like his first big completion because he was not doing anything of use until that point. As soon as he hit that pass, it felt like things started to open up for him, and he started to hit some passes. They started to run the ball well, and all of a sudden, the Steelers' offense just kind of came alive a little bit. So, if they get that version of Russell Wilson, Steelers might be all right. They might make some noise this season and make it interesting. I'm not sure if we're always going to get that version of Russell Wilson, but he played very well in the second half. I was impressed.
Yeah, it's weird. We're like, I mean, Russell Wilson has now. I mean, last year I thought he played well for Denver, and I think he's played even better. I mean, he almost looked like Seattle Russell Wilson in the second half here. Like, You're right. I don't know if that's going to continue. Big part of it is, and it might just be a good fit. Is we kind of our critiques of the Steelers where they're too George Pickens dependent. Well, like, who's been better at throwing jump balls over the past decade than Russell Wilson, right? Like, sometimes it's just like a good fit here.
Yeah. He's had that 50-yard bomb in his bag his entire career. He's been one of the best deep ball throws I've ever seen. And he hit that big one, and it wasn't even a perfect throw, but it was put in a position that his receiver can come back and make a catch. So, yeah, I thought it was a really nice play. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I mean, I think it is a good fit for this receiving room. Like, it's not going to be perfect. And, I still think Justin Fields is, in a way, adds some things to this team because his running ability. But I think we saw today, I mean, this would have been Justin Fields' best passing game of the season. If he had this stat line,
Oh, yeah.
It would have been his best passing game of the season. Does Justin Fields bring more to the table than Russell Wilson at this point in his career? Without a doubt. But if you're saying that, like, who's the better thrower of the football and do we need to throw the ball downfield, then yeah, I mean, this was a better performance than Justin Fields has put together this season.
Yeah. Also, how about Najee Harris, 102 yards on 4.9 yards per carry? He had a big day. And Beanie Bishop, I mean, he's the guy who should be getting the headline. Multiple picks in this one, including a great one. He had the one at the. Oh, I mean, he had both of them, but at the end of the half that I talked about earlier, really good play. We have to talk about the Jets here, Kyle, who continue to beat the Jets. Is probably the best way to describe it here. There was a point when in the offseason, I just sort of threw out like insert bad team here, and I threw out the Jets as the name, and then you kind of reminded me like, wait, the Jets aren't supposed to be bad this year. Kyle, you just is it just that? Is it just they're still the Jets that you just can't get that out of them no matter what the team is? Because I don't get why this team is so bad. I really don't understand it. I feel like Aaron Rodgers has honestly played pretty well this year. Like they added Devontae Adams. He doesn't look like Devontae Adams. Like Garrett Wilson, I feel like is talented. Like he's dropping a pass leading to an interception. Like what's going on here?
Um, it's really hard to figure out. I don't know why this team has played so bad. I don't know why they've been so bad in the second half of these games. And it just seems like they like usually throughout the games, it feels like you're more in sync and you make adjustments and like things kind of click a little bit more. And it seems like this team, this offense specifically, just kind of loses sync throughout the games. Like it just seems
Yeah.
like they completely lose touch between quarterback and receivers. And like I don't think it's all, people are going to try and put it all on Rodgers, all on the receivers. For whatever reason, it just feels like there's a general disconnect between what they want to do all the time. And, um, you know, there's more times it just feels like there's more times I'm seeing a Jets play and it's like Aaron Rodgers screaming at somebody rather than just like a normal play. So I
Yeah.
don't really know the solution to it. I mean, they scored 0 points in the second half of this game. They scored 3 points in the second half last week in a winnable game. Um, they scored 3 points in the second half of that Denver game that they lost 10-9. I don't know what's going on in the second half of these games that they can't seem to put it together and that there's just no like cohesion between this group. I mean, the problem is like that there is no more excuse, guys. Like,
Right.
what are you going to fire Nathaniel Hackett now too? Like, are you just going to clean the entire house mid-season? I don't know.
I mean,
Like,
I guess. Like, I mean, I was gonna
yeah,
joke about if they had 2 or 3 more Pro Bowlers and fire them under a coach, maybe it'll be competitive.
yeah. I mean, that it might be the thing they try, but
Hmm.
this season's slowly slipping away from you. You're 2-5 now. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to get too many more chances at the wheel. I mean, the team you just lost to is 5-2, still battling for a wild card spot. There is another team that's 3-2 and 4-2 battling for wild card spots. So it is not a foregone conclusion that you are going to be able to catch up even right now. You might have lost your chance to catch up. They can still right the ship, I think. I'm not writing them off yet or anything because I still think this team's too talented. They should beat New England next week, and that's going to put them at 3-5. But after that, like, who knows, man? Like, I just don't know.
Yeah. Kyle, I have a question. You said they're not gonna get too many more chances at the wheel. Is that an expression?
No, I think I just put two expressions. Too many chances at the plate versus, their turn. Jesus, take the wheel. I guess I just put them together. That's fine.
Yes. You don't know how many chances at the wheel you're gonna get here if you're the Jets. And then they got a tough game next week against Drake May and the Patriots. That's a loss.
Yeah, we're not very good.
So, but neither are the Jets. Only 2 wins here. It's great. Like the Mike Williams thing. Like, why is this guy like struggling? He had a nice catch in this one, but he's struggling so much to get stuff going. It's just like it has to be organizational at this point. Like there has to be something higher up because like why is this? Or maybe it is Rodgers. I don't know. But like, why is this all failing so much? And part of it too is like, okay, their secondary got really injured. That kind of is what it is. Like there are some valid excuses here, but like there's again, losing to the Steelers, it is what it is. But there's no reason they should be this bad. I don't think.
I mean, this offense has everybody now. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a notable name that I can think of that's out right now for this Jets offense. Like, I don't know. Brees Hall played well in this game. Garrett Wilson had his moments. I mean, they the reasoning for the Devontae Adams trade was that he had more chemistry with Rodgers than anybody, and he had 3 catches on 9 targets. Like, I don't know.
And nothing in
And
the
then
second half.
yeah, and then the Mike Williams thing, like, I still think that's just a bad fit. Like,
Hmm.
I don't want contested catch guys with Aaron Rodgers. He's just not going
Yeah.
to throw that ball. He's not going to throw that ball.
Put him to the Steelers.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think he would help in other situations a lot more. I
Mhm.
still think I know he's still coming off the injury and all that, but I think he's more talented than what he's shown in these games.
Yeah. Also, I think playing the Steelers too, it really just goes to show how the Steelers have like the blocked punts or the blocked field goals, right? It's just like it's these little edges that the Steelers are consistently getting that the Jets just aren't, and that's sometimes how you win football games.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it just seems like they're not getting any breaks and they're not making breaks from themselves too. So they're not really doing themselves any favors whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, they're a losing football team right now for a reason.
Yeah, we'll see if the Jets can turn it around. There still is time left, but very much running out of time. Have to start. Can't lose any more winnable games if you're the Jets. let's go to, it was built up as the game of the week and it lived up to the hype. Lions Vikings. This was a crazy one. The Vikings were favored. They got off to this hot start, up 10-0 immediately, and it kind of felt like, okay, here we go, another Brian Flores masterclass. The Lions put up 21 in the second quarter, take a 21-10 lead. Then the Vikings came back, were able to take the lead off of a fumble recovery touchdown to take the lead, and then the Lions and Jared Goff able to finally get the game-winning field goal drive. Jared Goff ends the day with 22 for 25, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did have a pass, he did have a fumble, so one turnover-worthy play, but still a really good, I mean, a nearly perfect day by Goff and this offense. And that's kind of, I think, the biggest takeaway is that this Lions offense is just rolling right now.
Yeah. The last 4 weeks, this team has just been really dominant on that side of the ball. It's been really impressive, or their last 4 games, not last 4 weeks, because they had a bye week mixed in there too. But they've been really impressive throughout that stretch. Is Goff in the MVP discussion for you?
Well, I mean, the first 2 games still have to count, right? I mean, he's still, I think, like, is he? I mean, I think, like, not right now.
Yeah, I think the thing is like Josh Allen has had his stinkers, so I think that also comes in. Like Lamar's probably the favorite right now, but like I think like everybody else has kind of had a stinker at least mixed in, and so that's probably what keeps him. What will put him in the conversation because I mean, you could argue these last 3 games, no one's played as impressive as him. And I mean, there is big time throws being made in this game. I mean, we talked about like, I think there's a disconnect between people saying like Jared Goff's not a top 5 guy and the people who want to act like Jared Goff is still Rams Jared Goff. Like, I think there is a disconnect there. Like, he's clearly better than the Rams version of Jared Goff, but he may not be like the top 5 quarterback people try and act like he is because of some numbers. But like there are plays where he's getting pressure in his face or getting hit as he throws in this game specifically that like resulted in touchdowns. Like those are things that just like Rams Jared Goff would not have been able to do, would not have been able to overcome. And I mean, he was flawless in this game. He had 140 passer rating. It was nearly a perfect day for him.
And that still wasn't as good as his previous 2 games.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think like, he went up against one of the best defenses in football and he looked at them right in the face. He took pressure, he took hits and made big time throws. I mean, those are things that, like I said, the previous Jared Goff that, people try and like also paint in a different light would not have done. So, yeah, I think it was a really impressive performance. And yeah, I mean, he's in the conversation for me. Like I said, Lamar Jackson is the favorite right now because I think from the start of the season to now, he's been the most impressive player. But if you're going to name like a guy like Josh Allen in that conversation, I think without a doubt, Jared Goff's also in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like he's on the short list. I guess I'll say that. Like, I'll say this as well. I think he could win it this year. Like, I think that like if the way this offense is playing and the way he's playing, like he's legitimately playing awesome. I think last year I kind of I hit my microphone. Last year I kind of pushed back on the Goff love a little bit just because I felt like he was playing very good football with a great supporting cast, and now I feel like he's playing great football with a great supporting cast, and it's just like lighting the world on fire. It's crazy. After the first 2 weeks, we were like, man, this Lions team looks really good. Just what's happening to Goff? And then he just like put together like the best stretch of his career. And now the Lions, we said it in the preview show, but like, yeah, Lions are NFC favorites right now, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. They looked impressive in this game. And I mean, this game was pretty crazy. Like you said, like Minnesota went up 10-0, which I got to say, I go to bat for my guy, Dan Campbell. I will defend that man for life. I love him. I love him as a coach. That fake punt when your team just lost its best defensive player and debatably the defensive player of the year the week before, to fake punt and set you up in that bad field position, probably one of the most insane coaching decisions. Like Nick Sirianni would be laughed at for hours if he made that decision.
It's Dan Campbell, so you can't.
Yeah.
In fairness, like what I feel like he hits like 80% of those.
Yeah, he does. But it was a 4th and 7. It wasn't even like a 4th and 1. I don't know. That was crazy to me. I couldn't believe he did that, but I could believe it because it's Dan Campbell. But more power to him. And what was I saying there? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Minnesota goes up. Then all of a sudden, Detroit just starts ripping off points. And it's like every drive is a touchdown. And yeah, I mean, I thought all of it was really impressive, and I think right now it's undoubtedly this is the best. I mean, I wouldn't say this is the best team in the this is the best team in the NFL right now to me. I think they are. Everything I've seen, they're checking the boxes.
Yeah, just gotta say in the chat. I'm gonna have to start banning people. Let's not call people, calling people idiots in the chat and stuff like that. That's not, not what we're
Yeah,
here to
that's my
do.
job.
Yes, that's right. Unless you're calling us idiots, that's always fine. But as a whole, we're here to talk football, here to have fun. Let's try and keep it more light. But yeah, back, let's talk about the Vikings here, who again through the first, they've started every game strong. The Vikings have not had a bad start here this season. Have another good start. Um, where are we at with this team? I guess because I think everyone is waiting for. We were all waiting for the game where we could say, "Oh, yep." Turns out the Vikings aren't actually that good. It just happened so late in the season. Now, this their sixth game, and they still looked pretty good in this game. They still nearly beat the Lions. That it's hard to sit here and feel too bad about them. I mean, I would say I think there was a couple plays that Darnold could have made and wasn't able to make down the stretch. I think that's something to note. And this is kind of the issue with with having a tier 3 quarterback. There are going to be times when you need him to make a play. Goff was able to make those plays, and Darnold wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, it comes off like a good roster that's using a replacement level quarterback, right? Like that's kind of the vision of what this team is, and that's what they looked like today. And I mean, this isn't the only time it happened, by the way. Like it had been creeping into the what this team was the last few weeks. They hung on in that Green Bay game. And I mean, honestly, they hung on in that Jets game overseas too. They had a pretty substantial lead before the Jets almost came back in that one. That was the one second half the Jets did play well. So it had kind of started creeping into this team a little bit. So it's not like something that was brand new. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good team that has the thing is like Sam Darnold has exceeded our expectations. He has exceeded his contract performance without a doubt. But I still think it's fair to say he puts a ceiling on your team, and that's fine. Because they knew what they were getting into, and this is the best case scenario you could have got out of a backup quarterback. But I don't think he's gonna push the boundaries of what this team can be, and I think we saw that in the game because they're playing another team who's a Super Bowl contender, and they needed a quarterback that could push the boundaries.
Yeah, and they also needed a defensive touchdown to make it to make things interesting. That being said, I mean, you still can't count this team out against anyone with their defense. They've had some very good wins, and still it's not a devastating loss. I think I'm to spoil my tier rankings tomorrow morning. I think I'm still keeping them in championship contenders as of right now. I'm not going to take them off just because of a close loss against maybe the best team in the league.
Yeah, I still think that they showed that they're plenty capable. It's just interesting. I watched these games. I watched this game, and then the Packers game too, which we're going to talk about in a bit. And it's like just the amount of offensive talent in this division. I mean, obviously it's the best division in football right now, but you just look at the offensive talent in this division, and it's just insane. Like you looked at the guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Madison, and then you got the other two teams too, which are also loaded at receiver and back. Like it's crazy what this division's packing right now. But yeah, I think the Vikings are good. I do think so. The one takeaway I did take from this game, along with what we said, I think Detroit is very much the Super Bowl favorite right now. My biggest takeaway was I do think they need to add somebody in the edge rush department by November 5th. I know they're talking the talk of it's going to be by committee. They're going to use their depth chart, all that kind of stuff. Like at the very least, just give a 7th round pick for Jadeveon Clowney, right? Like just do something, bring another body in there that you may be able to rely on.
Yeah, Clowney's a good choice actually. Just to be clear, you said Super Bowl favorites. Did you mean Super Bowl favorites or did you mean NFC favorites?
The Lions?
Yeah.
No, I think they're the best team in football right now. I have them as Super Bowl favorites.
Okay, I think that's a hot take, Kyle. Given the fact that the reigning champions are 6-0, but I don't think it's crazy to think, hey, I picked them to win the Super Bowl preseason. I think it's possible, certainly. But yeah, I agree about the edge rusher thing. The Vikings had a lot of time to throw the ball, and even when there was sacks, because there were some sacks, usually it was a lot well into the play that it was happening or a good scheme. They are not getting consistent pressure off the edge. Which hey, if you can scheme it up, cool. and they're covering well. But I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I like I said, just one more body, and like they shouldn't have to spend a lot for a guy like Jadeveon Clowney. They don't need to go and get Max Crosby. I just want one more option in there for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's go to. Why don't we go to the other game that was kind of billed as a marquee matchup? Ended up getting off the rails in the fourth quarter. It was competitive for a bit. The Niners looked like they were going to come back against the Kansas City Chiefs. They they scored a touchdown to go down just two. Elected to not go for the 2-point conversion to tie it, and instead just kick an extra point to make it a 1-point game, which they ultimately missed. They then were in field goal range. Purdy throws one of many interceptions there. Also later on in the game when they were down 2 scores, about 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Purdy threw another goal line interception. And kind of the story of the day was the awful stat lines that both of these two quarterbacks put up in this one. I believe this is the worst passer rating game of Mahomes' career. And weirdly, I didn't even think he played that badly in this one. I actually thought that he played all right. Like both interceptions were just complete fluky plays. One was his receiver fell down, and the other was a batted pass at the line, intercepted by a defensive lineman. And then he made some real nice plays of his legs, including a big scramble down the sideline and ran over and chucked the guy at the goal line for a touchdown on 4th and goal. So very bizarre game. I'm not sure even where to start with this one. Kyle, why don't you? Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the Chiefs. As much as I just said I love the offense, this defense is just unbelievably fun. And I think it has started to get the credit it deserves because we've seen this Chiefs offense now kind of, I don't want to say flounder because it does still have Mahomes, and I do respect that. I mean, I do respect that he is the best quarterback in the league, but it is definitely, the defense has been the driving force of this team. It feels like last season, and so far it's their 6-0 run this season. At least during this 9-game winning streak dating back to the playoffs last year, these 9 games, I would say the defense has been the driving force of this team. And they were everywhere in this game. They were fast. They were quick to the ball. I mean, this team just flies around. The speed on this defense is a sight to behold. And, I know the San Francisco skill guys started dropping like flies in this game. We're going to talk about that, obviously, as far as like the big picture for 49ers. But, it just seemed like this team was ready to make every play, and they're always in the right position. And it's so hard to predict where these guys are going to be because Steve Spagnuolo is a genius at defensive coordinating. And yeah, it's a really fun defense. And that was my biggest takeaway is I think as much as I just said everything about the Lions being the Super Bowl favorites, and I do think that the last 3 weeks they've been the best team in football, it's going to be really fascinating to see this team against this defense because it's going to be really hard to continue to do the Lions things and try and guess what Spagnuolo is doing on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think that this Chiefs defense, is. I think it's. I don't know if it's the best defense in the league. It's the defense I would take first, though, because I think that it fits playoff football. I think it fits like once you get to the big teams of being able to cover so well, they can frustrate good quarterbacks. Like there's so much value in a defense like this that we even see like Brock Purdy. I mean, and I don't think Brock Purdy played well in this one as well. I think that has to be factored in. I think like this was not a good Brock Purdy day, but like it is incredible what they can do.
Yeah. 100%. And they're, like I said, they're just everywhere. They're covering everything. They're getting pressure with force so consistently, too, that they're able to drop all these guys in coverage. And then they spring the blitzes. It seems like, I don't know what he does and how he figures it out, but it just seems like whenever Steve Spagnuolo brings a blitz, it's the perfect blitz. It's just insane. I don't know how he does it so much better than everybody else. And obviously Brian Flores does it terrifically too. And that's been the big talking point this season. But it just seems like every time the Chiefs blitz, it is a perfect blitzing scenario. But yeah, it was all incredible. And yeah, I think it really got into Brock Purdy's head. And I mean, I guess we'll talk about it. He was a disaster today. I mean, that was a frustrating performance, and we had said all season that it's funny because I think he's playing better than he did last year, but now he's getting less credit because the team's winning less. This was worse than any performance I think last year even, and he played this defense well in the Super Bowl. He did well in that game, and then this was just a mess. It was a mess from the start.
I don't know if it was worse than he had the Ravens game was very bad last year too. Purdy had
Yes.
4 interceptions in that game, but yeah. He has shown history if he can have a bad game and bounce back. But yeah, I think the biggest thing too was like, okay, Brandon Ayuk might have torn his ACL. Debo Samuel's kind of been banged up all year. Okay, Kittle's still Kittle, but you're in a situation now where, I mean, is even Jawan Jennings was injured in this game? Like, is Ricky Pershall wide receiver number one? Like, this is, I would say, the strength of the 49ers was their receiving core. As great as all the other stuff was, that is what makes them special. If you don't have that, like, this isn't a Super Bowl team. This is maybe barely a playoff team at this point.
Yeah. No, it's a tough situation. I agree. And the funny thing is like up until this, like the last few seasons where like 2021, they made the, what is it? They made the conference championship in 2021, 2022, they made the conference championship. And then last year they made the Super Bowl. Like that was kind of the narrative behind this team, was that they were kind of the injured team all the time after that first Super Bowl run. And it just kind of feels like it's happening again this season. And, the injuries are definitely starting to pile up. And, they went from the most talented team to, I mean, if it's no Ayuk and no McCaffrey and, Debo's hobbled, and then all of a sudden this is not the most talented team. And I have concerns.
Yeah, that's just how I view it as well. That being said, I mean, if some of these guys can get healthy, like you still trust Shanahan to get something going, and McCaffrey, I didn't mention him, but like if he can get healthy, like at a certain point, that does change the dynamic of this roster. Let's go back to the Chiefs. Let's talk about Mahomes, who I think like Mahomes just breaking people's brains because like it's the same thing. It's honestly really funny how similar it is to like early Tom Brady of like it's like really good football, but like the stat sheet doesn't back it up, and like people can't seem to like he's playing very well. Like he wasn't perfect in this game. He made some mistakes. Like Patrick Mahomes is having a good season, just not on the box score.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I mean, like last week he was fantastic and didn't throw a touchdown. Like
Yeah.
the team scored, and it doesn't reflect on the score sheet that he was a driving force behind those touchdowns. What is he supposed to do? Week 1, I thought he was really good, and he threw 1 touchdown. This was their highest scoring game of the season. Like, this is so I think like I think he's playing well, but I also think like he probably needs to play a little bit better for this team to win the Super Bowl, right? I think that's probably my biggest disconnect. Like I think he's playing well enough right now, but we expect him to go up another level when it's the biggest moments. And I mean, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he is Mahomes, but I do think like it's fair to say he has not been the best quarterback this season. And honestly, like I still think even as well as he has played, I agree with you. I think it's fair to say he hasn't been a top 5 quarterback this season just by performance.
Maybe. I mean, I think like I it's hard because I think I agree, but I also think like situation does kind of hurt this. Whereas like the Chiefs are currently 9th best offensive EPA on the season. Like it's similar like I think early Lamar stuff where it's like if you take Mahomes out, this is like easily a bottom 5 offense, I feel like. So like him being able to do all of that on kind of on his own to me is like I think you can make the argument he's been a top 5 most valuable quarterback. I don't think the chat's going to agree with that, but I think he's been very good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Yeah. So, but I do think still it's going to require him to go up another level for this team to be a Super Bowl winner. But that being said, they haven't lost in a long time for a reason. And I think he is still part of that reason, very much so, as well as the defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how long they can keep this going. 6-0 now, last undefeated team. They do have some tough games on the schedule still, but like they're still just finding ways to win all these games. Even this one, like, well, this was 14-12 at one point. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, are the Niners going to come back and steal this game? And it's just like, nope. The Chiefs found a way to do it again, and they created a couple turnovers, got the touchdowns when they needed, and then held on. So it's going to be fascinating to see if they're able to keep doing this.
Yeah, I was actually we could end here. We're going long, but that's okay.
These are the 2 biggest games of the week. That's fine.
Yeah. They play the Raiders next week. Okay, I think that should be a win. Then they play the Buccaneers the following week. They're going to be favored. I don't know, 5.5 points, 7 points, something like that in that game. Then you play the Broncos. That could be trouble. But then you play the Bills. That's interesting. But after that, you have the Panthers, the Raiders. They play the Chargers, which again, divisional could be interesting. But then the Browns. You have the Texans, and then the Steelers and Broncos again. I don't know. Like how far could they go? Like they're going to be favored in every game down the stretch, I would assume.
Yeah, it would blow my mind if they actually like run the table here with like every score being within 10 points. The Saints game is the only exception here.
Hmm.
But you know, there are a lot of hurdles here. The Broncos always give them trouble, it feels like. And, you know, that defense is really good. Justin Herbert couldn't move the last time they played, and the Chargers only lost 17-10. That one can be a hurdle. The Browns, you know, are playing a different quarterback. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, yeah, no, that's not. We can stop that.
You know, there are a few roadblocks here, for sure.
Going 17-0 was really hard, but hey, it's fun. I always love a good quest for 17-0. I think it's always a fun storyline. Let's move on. Texans Packers. So Kyle, you locked up the Houston Texans. There was a moment when it looked like a good lock, but it did not last very long. The all they had to do was win, but really, I mean, I think one big takeaway is just without Nico Collins, this Packers defense was able to smother this Texans receiving core. Guys were not getting open throughout. Joe Mixon had a good day. They were able to have a good day through the ground, but other than that, they were not able to get much going. Offensively. Let's start there, Kyle. A really, really good defensive day by the Packers.
Very good defensive day. This is what you wanted to see from this team when they changed defensive coordinators. They came in with the game plan, they executed it, and it was impressive. It was really impressive. They were more than happy to let Joe Mixon do Joe Mixon things. And Joe Mixon did play well. I do want to give him credit. But they were saying they're taking away this passing game. CJ Stroud's going to try and play hero ball, or they're going to ask CJ Stroud to play hero ball. And we're just going to take away his passing options. You know, he can run around, he can extend plays, but we're taking away his options. And they did a fantastic job of it. CJ Stroud was incredibly frustrated in this game. I don't think I've ever seen him in college or the NFL get that frustrated before. And he was just losing it, it seemed like, every play. This was tough, and it started with this defense just playing lights out football. I mean, this is probably Stroud's worst game of his career, honestly. And it was tough, and, you got to give him the credit.
Yeah. Stroud's had some other I feel like you're being very prone to hyperbole in this show, Kyle. I feel like he's had other bad performances, bad, tough, frustrating games, including the playoff game against Baltimore last year. But yeah, no,
he had 15 net yards passing on dropbacks.
It's not great. You're fair enough. I'll have to look at it. You might be right on. Okay, perhaps you're correct. But yeah, and I thought that the Packers were doing some really interesting things too with how they were setting up the blitzes too. Like they're being really creative there. Steve Spagnuolo would be proud with what they did.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Credit to Jeff Hafley in this game. Credit to they brought in Xavier McKinney. Jair Alexander. He came into this game talking that smack. Obviously, the pregame stuff, and I think he backed it up more than enough. I thought the secondary played fantastic for sure.
On the flip side, Kyle, Jordan Love is quickly becoming the most watchable quarterback in the league. He does it all. I mean, the guy will throw it into double coverage and have it work. He had a touchdown, which it was like a Texans player was diving to get it and went through to their hands and was caught for a touchdown by the Packers player past him. He was, in a situation where late in the game, all they need is a field goal to win the game. Gosh. He just chucks one up in a one-on-one situation in the end zone to try and win it. That wouldn't really help you that much. He's a wild man. He's essentially like a more accurate Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
who's also better.
That last drive was wild because he threw one over the middle to start that drive. That it would have been an unfortunate pick because it was double deflected if it did end up. But he threw the linebacker did deflect the ball, and then the safety was in a position to pick that off. And then I couldn't believe that they were still throwing the ball with 15 seconds left. I'm like, this guy's gonna throw the most hilarious interception. He's so insane, man. He'll go on 10-minute heaters, and then there will be throws where it's like, I genuinely do not know what you were looking at. Um, so yeah, I think it was a wild performance, but it's very Jordan Love-esque that there was moments of brilliance and there was moments of like, what are you doing? All mixed together into this thing, and you know, it was good enough to win though.
Yeah, I think it's like I feel like I don't know. Some quarterbacks, it's like okay, you're trying to get like Patrick Mahomes is a mountain, right? Like that's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get to be a mountain. I feel like a lot of quarterbacks are like hills that are like or like tall built, tall. You're hoping that they can get up to be a mountain. And you just have Love, who's like a volcano. Right? Those are the three types of quarterbacks, and it's like you just hope that it doesn't erupt because it's just as tall as some of these other mountains, and like that's what you get with Jordan Love, and we'll talk about with like Anthony Richardson too. It's like you just hope that it doesn't erupt enough to make up for the kind of have it go negative because there is so much positive. I think the positive outweighed the negative in this game. I think he made some really good plays.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did in this week, and it has the last 3 games. It's been good enough. I there's definitely going to be an opportunity here in a playoff game where it feels like that he lets the team down, but I still think he's adding enough to say that this is enough to be a winning football player. I don't know how much how much of it's going to continue to happen, but like there's still enough here to get you excited and get you convinced that he can be the guy.
Yeah, well, big win. Again, we could talk more about these teams, I think, but got to move on. Spent a while on the first couple games, so let's go to let's do Seahawks Falcons, which we're getting to some blowouts here, but I think some interesting blowouts. The Kirk Cousins thing did not work out very well in this game after having a couple of really nice weeks. It actually the stats sheet makes it look worse than it was. It was a competitive game for a while, but then kind of once the Seahawks got up 2 scores. The Falcons had 4 straight turnovers on not on 4 straight plays, but on 4 straight drives, ending in turnovers, and just some bad plays by Cousins. Also a fluky one there as well, but that was kind of what sunk them. And it's just the kind of thing where I feel like we saw this in the Steelers game as well. The Falcons don't block that well in pass protection, and it's just like with Kirk Cousins. Essentially, he's going to give you nothing in terms of extending a play. So they get into these situations where it's like their first read has to be open. And like against Tampa Bay, it worked. Their first read was consistently open. Against Carolina, their first read was consistently open. In this game, it was open sometimes. It wasn't open the other times. And when it wasn't open, that was just it. That's the play.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then, the interceptions were unfortunate a little bit too. So, I do think that plays a part in it. But at the same time, like, yeah, I agree that like he's very much like the ball has to be out quickly because he is offering nothing. Like you said, he's not going to be able to move away from this play. And that's just kind of the Kirk Cousins experience right now, isn't it? Like he's an older quarterback. You've invested in this older quarterback. You have to accept that there are going to be some limitations there. And this offense can be a little frustrating, it feels like at times this season, because it should be more talented and it should be better than this. And I mean, it's just crazy because what we saw from the Seahawks defense the last few weeks not be good. You just expect this Atlanta offense and the way they've played and the talent they have on paper to be able to move the ball and do their thing. And they just didn't in this game. They really didn't. It was a really tough performance.
I would say big bounce back performance by the Seahawks secondary. I thought they played really well in this game, so I got to give them credit. The Seahawks are always weird to talk about because like they never show anything they don't show like every week. Really, like it's like, yep, Geno Smith also had a good game. DK Metcalf's really good. Like there's still some issues here, but this is a really good win for Seattle. And again, kind of making the comparison with Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins, it's like Smith can make the play when something breaks down. He's not Lamar
Geno Smith's
Jackson.
way better. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Geno Smith's
Sure.
way better. Like, I think Geno Smith is, if I were to reevaluate things from our quarterback rankings, like I'm probably having him top 7. Like I don't even care at this point. Yeah,
wow.
maybe not. Maybe top 8. I'm taking him over. I'm taking him over Kirk Cousins. I'm taking him over Dak Prescott. I'm taking him over Jordan Love, who I don't know where the ball's landing every time he throws it. I'm taking him over Kyler Murray, who week to week. This guy's been really good. He's been really good for 3 years now. I thought he had one like kind of poor game against San Francisco. It definitely wasn't his best game, but I think this guy's electric. I think he's really good. And like, if you want to talk about like what this offense would be with him or without him, I don't think this is a very good offense with a replacement level quarterback. I don't think they can block. And I just don't really think, I know they have good receivers, but like, I don't really know if anyone else. I just don't know if it's adding that much more. And I think he's playing really good football. I would take him over several of those mid-tier quarterbacks, and he's probably closer to tier 2 than tier 3 for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think, and it was weird because even like 2 years ago, he was like a tier 2 quarterback. Like that was how good he was. And then kind of
Mhm.
last year, I feel like he took a step back. Good to see him being the 2 years ago, Geno Smith. So yeah, fun stuff. I think the Falcons are okay. I still think that this is a bit of a flawed team because they can't extend plays, but it's interesting. They play Tampa Bay next week, so that'll be four. Regardless if Tampa Bay wins or loses tomorrow, that'll be four to division leads. So you can get right there if you can get that win, but a big game for the Falcons.
Yeah. Big game for them indeed. That NFC South gets a little more interesting by the week, it feels like, between those two at the top. But I've had some hot takes this show, haven't I?
You've been on fire.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think outside of like the top 5 guys, like I think he could be in the conversation. Like,
Is he an MVP candidate?
I mean, he's not going to get it based on performance because their record doesn't show it, and his raw numbers aren't good enough. But I think he's been one of the more impressive quarterbacks this season. I really do.
Wow.
I think I don't know, like him and Jared Goff have been pretty close, I think.
I mean, it's again, I'm closer to you are than I think the general public will be. Like, it's his current passer rating is 89 on the season. He has 8 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. But I agree, his play's been much better than that.
Yeah, it just has been. Like I
Mhm.
think you just have to watch the performances. I mean, I think he's number 1 in passing right now, passing yards. So like, I don't know. I think he's bringing a lot to the table to carry this team, and I would feel pretty confident in him over a lot of guys in the league right now.
Wow, cool, Kyle. I did not know you were such a big Geno Smith fan, but we'll I'll keep a note of that when we make our picks on Tuesday. I guess Tuesday's show because we're doing it a day early. So yeah, for everyone who's going to tune into the preview show, we're doing it a day early Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. But let's move on. Let's go to. I'll be honest, not a ton of great games left. I guess we can go to, we can talk Dolphins Colts because I already brought up Anthony Richardson. It was a close game. The Dolphins, this is kind of an important loss for them because they would have been 3-3 had they won this game. With apparently Tua might come back sooner than we realize. Kyle, how does Tim Boyle keep getting playing time? How does he consistently get there? No, we can't start with that. Let's start with Anthony Richardson, who I'm just going to be honest, played very poorly in this one.
Yeah, it's tough. Like he's not developing as a passer, and you can blame the injuries and like not consistent playing time because of the injuries, that kind of thing. But like, I don't know, like just how many times can you let the guy go 10 for 24 or something of the same ilk and just say like, this is going to put us in a position to win games? And
yeah,
I don't know. I kind of feel it's like the Justin Fields thing. Like, yes, the dynamism of his running ability brings a whole nother element to a team. And if you're a bad football team, having a quarterback that can run, I think also is really helpful just because you generally don't have the skill talent, and that's why you're a bad football team. But that being said, like, I've just generally come to believe, like, to be an elite quarterback, you probably have to be like a top 5 to 7 passer in the pocket at some point. Like, you have to be able to make throws in the pocket. Like, I just generally think that as athletic as some of these guys are impressive, like, you have to be able to make throws from the pocket and make big time throws and make throws downfield. And I mean, is there one thing about Anthony Richardson's game that you could say convince you that he's ever going to do that?
Well, I mean, again, someone brings up like Josh Allen was also this bad in his first season. I mean, I don't know if it's not unfair, I guess. I think that, but I would say that you are chasing an outlier in doing that.
Yeah.
I think is the issue.
That is the
Go ahead.
thing. Like Josh Allen is the like generational shift in ability. Like his development is not something that anybody else has ever shown. Like that is that still feels like a once in a lifetime thing. Maybe he turns into that guy, but how much longer can we wait on that to click?
I don't know. I think probably still give it this year. I mean, like, what do you have to lose? You are 4-3. I don't know how this Colts team keeps winning games, but they're finding ways to do it because I think this defense also isn't very good. But hey, you're winning games. as of now. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he does, like, as annoying as it is, because he is so bad at 90% of quarterback, he can throw an amazing football and he is an electric runner. And it's like there still is that, like, the upside there that he's just going to get more of a chance than other players would.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. I just think like this team, they've clearly shown they're a better team with Joe Flacco. And it's just really tough to like, it's really tough to like, you know, the playoffs are kind of there for them. Like they can make the playoffs this season. They got a tough stretch here coming up. Like it's going to reveal a lot about this team because it's Houston, at Minnesota, home to Buffalo, at New York Jets, home to Detroit. That's a tough 5-game stretch.
Yeah, I don't know if they're making the playoffs now.
Yeah, maybe it falls off here, but like I don't know, if you find a way to win a couple of those games, like you could be in the conversation, but you do have to win those games.
Yeah, I'm going to blame Mike McDonald a little bit before we move on. Like, I think it was like the third quarter was the first time they had a completion to a wide receiver. Like, you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. How are you taking that long to get a completion to one of those guys? Like, and in the game, Tyreek Hill had one catch for 5 yards, no Jalen Waddle stuff. I get it. You have all these quarterback issues. Like, you've had a few weeks of Tyler Huntley now. Like, and he's shown he can be an effective backup quarterback. Like, I'm tired. Oh wait, I read the wrong stat. Jalen Waddle had one catch for 11 yards, and Tyreek Hill one catch for 8 yards. So that's much better.
Yeah, it is. It's inexcusable, right?
Yeah.
Like we know what Tyreek Hill is, and like there's just no way he can't be a threat still.
Yeah,
like, I refuse to believe that. So yeah, it's a tough situation, and this team's 2-4 now. So Tua is going to play, I guess, next week? Question mark or week 8. That's what I heard. So they're on a bye week, or no, sorry, week 8. So next week, yeah, he's coming back. Maybe this team can go on a run. This is a team that does have some favorable games coming up. They have Arizona, at Los Angeles Rams, home to Las Vegas, home to New England. Those are all winnable games coming up. Buffalo's sandwiched in there too. So maybe this team could turn it around and go on a run with Tua, but like, I don't know, man. Like, there's not a whole lot that I'm really convinced about with this team that can, I don't know if like it's going to be enough.
Yeah, I hear you. Especially when they didn't look great in the first 2 weeks, barely beating Jacksonville and then getting crushed by Buffalo before the Tua injury. So we'll see. It's a tough situation here for Miami, but you're not out of it yet if Tua does come back. Ready to move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's go to. I guess this is the biggest storyline left. I mean, the biggest storyline of the week was the Deshaun Watson injury. So we can go to Bengals, Browns. The Bengals beat the Browns 21-14. I'm going to start with the storyline. Deshaun Watson appears to have torn his Achilles. The crowd cheered as he was going off the field. And then the Browns players were getting mad at their own fans. It was a whole thing going on there. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, all of everything aside, I'm kind of just like ready to be done with the Deshaun Watson saga, right?
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, right? Like it's just time to move on. Yeah, it really does. So it was rough in this game again. I know he like only threw 2 incompletions or something like that, but like they weren't throwing the ball down the field, and then the injury is unfortunate. And then yeah, I mean at this point, so I mean he's probably gonna miss. I mean, assuming the injury is what it is, and it is the torn Achilles injury, he's going to miss this season, and he's going to miss into the start of the next season. And I don't know. I would probably say he's done playing in the NFL. Honestly, I think it is the end of the Deshaun Watson saga forever.
I think so too. I think after this year, I think he's going to get cut. They're going to take on all the dead cap next year and just kind of rebuild. And then that'll be that. I mean, that's probably the move. And it's I think it's got to be. And again, it's the kind of thing where okay, everyone's blaming the Browns for doing this. There were other teams trying to trade for Deshaun Watson, like the Falcons were trying to trade for him, the Saints were trying to trade for him. He chose Cleveland. Like that's the only reason why he went there. Well, because they gave him a fully guaranteed contract. I think that like. But the difference is, I think a lot less teams are going to be willing to forgive it when you're like a backup caliber quarterback who's played horrible the past 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. Drew Magus says I thought they can't cut him. They can in the offseason. They're just gonna have to eat like a $50 million dead cap
Oh,
salary.
it'll be more than that. I think it's like 100 million.
Yeah, so they're gonna be a bad team next year if they do.
Yeah.
But it would be in the intentions of trying to fix the roster overall, which looked bad again in this game, by the way. It was great to see Nick Chubb out there. But yeah, it definitely feels like the end of it. And then I mean, beyond that, like, so I need to talk about this whole game because I have so many
Yeah.
questions for you. So, Deshaun Watson
I'm here to
obviously
help,
gets hurt.
Kyle. Go, sorry, go
So
ahead.
Jameis Winston just has to be the worst practice player of all time because Dorian Thompson Robinson comes into this game and like why did this happen? So explain this to me. Explain the logic or what you think is the logic and what you saw from this game.
Yeah, I don't really know. So it was announced prior to this game that Dorian Thompson Robinson was going to be the backup and Jameis Winston would be the emergency starter. I think part of me was wondering, was it like they didn't want the crowd just chanting like we want Jameis? Was it like them trying to almost like not create the quarterback controversy as much as possible? Is it a tank move? I mean, Jameis Winston in under half the attempts had almost as many yards as Dorian Thompson Robinson had, and he didn't have a lot of yards. He had 67 here. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Cleveland. They're making so many illogical decisions. Like, at no point am I like, oh, maybe this is what they thought would be best to win football games. Like, I'm not even thinking that at all when I'm factoring in what they're doing.
Yeah, I get the feeling that, like, I don't know. Like, at this point, like, as much he's a 2-time Coach of the Year winner, and like, I don't think it's crazy if Kevin Stefanski gets fired this season. I don't think he will, but it is going to be a question. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't like to throw around like this guy sucks or anything like that all that often. I'm pretty confident Dorian Thompson Robinson sucks,
Yeah, might not
and
be great.
we've seen him a lot in Cleveland, and every time it doesn't look good. So that was just bizarre. And then yeah, Jameis Winston came in and weirdly almost brought him back because he threw the late touchdown and the 2-point conversion. So yeah, weird game for the Browns. Kind of sleepy game for the Bengals, I thought too. Like this was the first time their offense actually looked human.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was great, but at the same time, like, I don't know. There was that huge break in this game too because of the injury, and like I just don't really know how to evaluate this game. I felt like this was just as soon as that happened, and like you had to sit there for 30 minutes or whatever it was just a get on and get out game. We lost your audio. I can't hear you.
Okay, am I back?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. What happened was I had to blow my nose, so I muted my mic to blow my nose, and then in doing that, knocked out my headphones. So I had a boomer moment here, Kyle.
No worries. What did you think of the Bengals? Did you have any comments there?
Not a ton. I agree with you. It was a bit of a sleepy game. I mean, they still won it. It would have been the all-time comeback had they recovered the onside kick. Jameis Winston gets a touchdown, go for 2 and win it. That would have been amazing. Did not happen. I mean, you looked at the Bengals schedule, you said, hey, couple of games they should win against the Giants, against Cleveland. They didn't look great in these games. They played Philadelphia next week and the Raiders the week after. I think them and the Eagles are two teams that I think we both kind of think could be better than they've been to start the year. I mean, part of it too, though, is like, and it's part of why the Deshaun Watson thing was so frustrating is I think Cleveland has an okay roster. Like, I think they have pieces here. Like, this defense has given other teams trouble this season at times, but it's just like when your offense is so inept, there's only so much you can do. So, I don't know. I'm not going to criticize a team too much for winning a game handedly, until a garbage time touchdown brings them within one score.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to criticize it either. And I do think the defense, I mean, granted, these aren't the best offenses they've ever seen, but I do think the defense the last 2 weeks has played better. So we'll see if that can go, continue into the Philadelphia game. And then, yeah, I mean, this team had every bad beat. It felt like the first 3 weeks, some self-inflicted wounds there too, to lose those 3 games and go 0-3. A tough Ravens game too. So that was 1-4. And now they're 3-4 and maybe in the conversation, but they gotta rack up some wins against some tough schedules here coming up.
All right, well, let's move on. This could end up being a bit of a lightning round of the final 6 games, as we got, it's always things to talk about with these games, but we'll see how long we spend. Let's go to the Raiders Rams. This was a competitive game. Gardner Minshew did not play well in this one. He ends up in the Blaine Gabbert zone, under 5 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I don't know. We need a new zone for that. When you go, you have a 0 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio and are in the Blaine Gabbert zone. That's a rough one by Minshew. Antonio Pierce got a lot of criticism for on a 4th down and goal at the 9-yard line, 2.5 minutes left, down 8, elects to kick a field goal instead of going for it, which I didn't actually hate that decision too much, but I get why people are critical of it. Still probably not what I would have done though. Yeah, I mean, this Raiders team is Brock Powers is very good. This Raiders team is not.
Yeah. Yeah, you have at least one player to look forward to watching each week on offense. But it is rough. It is rough. Here's my thing with the 4th down decision. Your quarterback averaged 4.5 yards per attempt and threw 3 interceptions. Like, I understand the 4th down analytics and the game score and the game script, and it's hard. Like, sooner or later, it has to get thrown out when 9 yards would have been a miracle for this team. Honestly.
To cut you off, I just have to say, I guarantee you, Antonio Pierce has thrown it out. That makes you feel better. I guarantee you, he was not looking at that.
Yeah, that was. I just think there like a 9 yards would have been a miracle for this team. It felt like in this game. This was brutal. This was not fun to watch. I'm very excited to have Cooper Kupp back next week because I'm just excited to see Matthew Stafford throw balls to guys and be like, can this guy catch? Who is this guy? I would just like to see one guy oh yeah, I know he can catch the ball. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Tyler Johnson was the 5th receiver in Tampa for years, and he was his dependable option here. Him and Tutu Atwell. Please just get him another guy, please.
Yeah, Tyler Johnson was a 5th-round pick that we looked at oh, that was a disappointment for a 5th-round pick. That's how we view him, and yet he's the leading receiver in this game. No, it's crazy.
Yeah, but no, I mean, Rams got to win. Didn't have a lot of takeaways from this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have one more takeaway.
Okay.
They got to change the end zone paint because it looks too much like an IKEA sign, and I can't get it out of my head. I just think it's Swedish meatballs the whole time. Just change the end zone.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's intentional.
Advertising.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the next level of advertising is designing the you have a McDonald's style end zone for the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, we'll see if anyone. Hey, again, the NFL needs to hire us. We have great ideas.
Yeah, we're available as so advisors for sure.
Yes, Kyle. Let's talk about your stupid team here. Not stupid. That's too mean. They had some fun here. Got off to. Here's what I want to know: how pumped up were you when the Patriots went up 10-0 early on in this game?
Very pumped.
Yeah,
really good. This defense is so bad.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I know Christian Barmore didn't play this season, obviously, and he was on the team last year, and Juwan Bentley got hurt. But I really don't understand how it's a lot of the same faces on the defense in the secondary compared to last season, and it just feels like guys are wide open. And I do think that is the Bill Belichick factor. And I'm not fully convinced in Gerard Mayo. He's not going to get fired, but at the same time, I'm just not convinced. And I don't know if it's going to last long. So we'll see how it all goes. Basically, this game turned into Drake May looked terrific the first 2 drives, I thought. And Jacksonville basically had the game plan that everyone saw for New England the first 5 weeks, which was Jacoby Brissett couldn't read a blitz and decided they were going to blitz a bunch. And it's oh, wait, Drake May can throw against the blitz and we can still get pressure with 4 guys. And they just said, okay, we are no longer blitzing. And it was Patriots receivers couldn't get open. The other one, too, is Demario Douglas, who has quickly just turned into Drake May's go-to target, and he's been very good. Also got sick. And so he's also our zone guy. And as soon as they stopped blitzing and dropped everyone in coverage, he was not there to get open. I think that hurt too. But yeah, I just think as soon as they stopped blitzing, Jacksonville was fine.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, we did get to see some towards the end, though. Drake May did lead a couple, or really that one really nice drive to bring them back in it before. Because
Couple
there's a
great
weird play
plays there.
where
Yeah.
Doug Peterson, they're up, what was it, 14 points, and Doug Peterson elects to not kick a field goal on 4th and 1, and like with like 12 minutes left. That was a weird thing. Why not make it a 3-score game? I thought.
Yeah.
Elects to go for it. They don't get it. Drake May leads this great drive to it was 15 points because then they score a touchdown, go for 2 and don't get it. But that was there was some good stuff there by Drake May. I thought, and I mean you got to be pumped up about Drake May, right?
Oh yeah, like I said, the good thing about Drake May is like we had nothing to look forward to watching week to week, and now we have something to look forward to watching. I think he has been very good the first 2 weeks. I think he's been very impressive. Checked all the boxes. He did have a couple throws in this game that definitely could have been intercepted. One that
Mm-hmm.
even was dropped by Tyson Campbell. But overall, I thought he made some really impressive throws. He's still checking all the boxes for a team that's not very good and without a ton of talent around him. And then Trevor Lawrence, I thought looked really good too,
Yeah,
and Tank Bigsby and all that.
hey man, Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, he's been a real winner so far out of a first round pick. Hey, as much as we make fun of Jaguars for only drafting the best athletes at the wide receiver position, that's not the worst strategy.
No, it's not. And I mean, all these rookie receivers have been really good. And I mean, you could debate that Thomas has been the most impressive, and that's mainly because Neighbors missed a couple games. But so statistically, he's probably better. But like, he's been really good too. So all these rookie receivers have shown flashes of really, really impressive stuff. First round receivers.
Kyle, I know you were watching this game closely. Do you get my Trayvon Walker confusion at this? What this one of he has a pressure immediately in the game, is completely does the nothing for the rest until the end of the game, where he has like this immediate like pressure for a sack and like a key moment. Like this is
Yeah.
Trayvon Walker to a T.
Yeah, he got that last one, and it really pissed me off too because I knew it was coming.
Uh-huh.
And like he just moved Michael Onyenwu back, and
Mm-hmm.
Michael Onyenwu's been driving me crazy this year, and it's just really disheartening to see a guy get paid and then really frustrate you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he just pushed him back in that last play, and I was like, this had to be coming at this point. Like he'd done nothing all game, makes that play, and then yeah, I mean, it checks out.
Yeah. Someone says a Walker greater than Hutchinson. Hey, he's still playing. I mean, you can't argue with that.
Yeah,
Well, Trayvon Walker's just a weird. It's like I do have to say though, like, and seriously, like there does have to be something like so in baseball. There's kind of the batting average on balls in play, like discovery of guys who hit, a ball in play. Usually, there's a lot of luck that goes into it. Like if you happen to hit it to a spot, if the defensive player makes the play or not. But then what they eventually figured out was, well, it's not all luck. There is some like still skill involved in batting average on balls in play. A section of this audience has no idea what I'm talking about, and that's fine. But I'm wondering if there's something similar here with pressure to sack ratio of like Trayvon Walker, kind of his play style is like he's gonna probably always have a high pressure to sack ratio.
yeah, he's just physically dominant enough that he is going to. Like when he is going to get pressure, he's going to get it quickly because he is
Right.
physically dominant. Like I
Because
think
he
that
always
checks
goes
out.
for his bull rush, and that's the quickest way to get pressure.
Yeah, so I think it checks out. You said you wanted to do a speed round, and now we're talking about BABIP and how
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
loses
We can
out.
move on. Yeah, let's go to Titans Bills here. This was a game that again, looking at the final score, you're like, oh yeah, sure, Bills 34-10. Definitely checks out. This is exactly what we expected. This was a game for a while. In fact, the Titans led it at halftime here. The offense does look better with Mason Rudolph out there, but again, Josh Allen kind of taking over here, and Keon Coleman with 125 yards, and not to mention Amari Cooper had a touchdown along with 66 yards of his own. So this Bills offense took a minute here, but kind of finally got going in the second half.
I will say, like, there have been stretches of the last 4 weeks, and I mean, honestly, the Texans and Ravens games, it was the entire game. And in the last 2 weeks, there have been stretches where this Bills offense just looks horrible. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there have been stretches where it's just brutal, but like then they turned it on in the Jets game, and they also turned it on in this one. So yeah, I thought it was an impressive second half from Josh Allen and company. I mean, honestly, you could say the Cardinals game was the same way, and they came back and won that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Josh Allen was impressive in the second half. They did everything that they needed to, and good win for the Bills in the end. But yeah, I mean, this definitely was a little more hairy than you probably wanted when you saw Tennessee on the schedule this week.
Right. Which again, it's weird to say about a game that ended 34-10, but I also think that it feels like Mason Rudolph just has to be the starter for Tennessee now, right?
Um, I mean, they're probably going to go back to Levis when he's healthy, just because that's what they do. But he's the better quarterback. I didn't need to see this game to say Mason Rudolph was better than Will Levis, though. To be honest,
Sure, that's probably fair. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I guess the one last thing, and maybe this isn't worth talking about when we're doing the speed run, is there a leading running back controversy here? Ray Davis outgains James Cook, despite the fact that he only had 5 carries. James Cook had 12. Ray Davis is looking good out there. I think you might want to give him the ball more.
Yeah, he has been good. I know James Cook has been dealing with the turf toe thing, and they basically took him out in the second half. I think a lot because he is dealing with that injury. So, I mean, we'll see. But Davis has been good the last 2 weeks for sure.
Well, let's move on, Kyle. 3 games left to talk about. Let's go to Eagles Giants. Ends 28-3. That score seems familiar. I can't quite figure out what that was. I don't know. The second I finally gave the Giants some credit, they've immediately just gone back to being absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Daniel Jones got benched in this game.
Yeah.
And then got mad about it in the press conference when he was 14-21 for 99 yards and sacked 7 times.
In fairness, Drew Lock 3 for 8 for 6 yards, which is just an incredible stat line.
Yeah, that's tough too. This was a brutal performance. I do have one thing from this game.
Okay.
If you get paid like a top 5 player at your position, it is not a revenge game.
Yeah, no, I've been saying this for a while. Yeah.
This is not the Saquon Barkley revenge game. Like, he got paid. It wasn't like he ended up like signing for like a minimum contract because the Giants wouldn't pay him. Like, he got a fairly sizable contract for his performance.
Like Baker Mayfield against the Browns, that would be a revenge game.
Yes, that is very much a revenge game.
Yeah, this team said, you know what, I don't want to pay you a big contract. This other team will pay you the big contract. Why don't you go over there?
Yeah, I think that's very much a different thing. But he and AJ Brown, I mean, they're just backing up my Philadelphia take. AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley are the best 2 players in this team, and they looked like it again.
Oh yeah, I mean, they got some offensive linemen that might take issue with that, but at least in terms of
Fine.
But yeah, I mean, Saquon Barkley 176 yards rushing on 17 carries. He had over 10 yards per carry in this game. Jalen Hurts only threw the ball 14 times. Kenny Pickett threw it once, and this was again, Kenny Pickett was 0 for 1 for 0 yards, and he was the second best quarterback out of 4 here today, Kyle.
Yeah. That's a tough break. I did think Hurts played well in this game, but I think a lot of it too is that he threw the ball to AJ Brown. That generally works. He had 10 completions, 5 of them were to AJ Brown. He had 14 pass attempts, 5 of them were to AJ Brown. Wonder why that works that way. The defense did play well though too. Jalen Carter had a big day. Nakobe Dean had a big day. And they probably needed that too. But yeah, it was impressive in performance. This was I do want to give flowers because we'd been criticizing everyone under the sun had been criticizing Philadelphia for the last few weeks. And, it probably felt good to go out and kick somebody's ass. I'll be honest.
Oh yeah, I mean I agree. This is exactly get right games aren't supposed to be games you just win. They're supposed to be games where everything gets right, and that's what happened here. And hey, we could sit here and talk all we want about them being too AJ Brown dependent, but on that 4th down, going deep to AJ Brown, he's not a bad guy to depend on.
Yeah. He's very, very good. So it's definitely not a bad strategy. It's just very much it's very clear what the strategy is. I think that's the issue.
Right. Giants defensive line continues to be very good. Dexter Lawrence, a pair of sacks. Brian Burns has a sack. So, there you go.
It's the most expensive part of the team. It better be good. So
it better be good, but at least it is. We've seen teams put a lot of resources into something and still not be good. At least they've been good at what they've tried to be good at. I don't know what the takeaway is here, but Daniel Jones is still actually the most expensive part of this team. He has not been great.
Yeah, no, he has not. The last 2 weeks have been brutal.
Yeah, Daniel Jones might not make it next. I think we did a thing of could he stick around for another year? Probably not. The way this is going at this point. Let's move on. 2 games left. We can go to Panthers Balls, which maybe we should have done a little earlier because, the game itself, who cares? Andy Dalton didn't play well. the biggest thing is the Jaden Daniels having a rib injury, could be out for up to 6 weeks potentially if things go, poorly. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully he can come back. And rib injuries just suck because like every time you breathe, it hurts. Like those are like the most painful injuries. So like that just sucks. Very early on in this game, he goes down. Only threw 2 passes. Marcus Mariota comes in and looks great. Doesn't miss a beat. The good news is they have a good backup. Mariota is a good backup. So they're one of the teams that did pay attention there. It does suck that next week, the game that was flexed, Bears Commanders, now it looks like Daniels won't play in that. So that sucks. But you didn't have the Giants, Steelers, then you have the Eagles and the Cowboys. I mean, those aren't like easy games other than the Giants, but like there are games where you have a chance, I guess, of a backup quarterback. Can they stay afloat with Mariota?
Yeah, that's a tough question, man. Like, I don't know. Like, the Bears have been playing really well lately. They were on the bye this week. That's a tough one. Like, maybe they beat the Giants, but like the Steelers defense isn't easy to play. Like, if we're just saying, like, if he does happen to miss 6 weeks, like, especially with the Eagles not chomping a bit on chomping right behind you, whatever the expression is, it's 1 a.m. And then the Dallas Cowboys, maybe they work themselves back in the conversation. They're still only 2 games back, despite everything going wrong for them. Like you do kind of need those games. Like those are big divisional games, and as well as Mariota did play today, he did play very well. You probably want your best quarterback for those games for sure. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, they just need to stay afloat. They don't need to. I think it's like, okay, at this point, like all you're trying to do is can you stay alive? This offense has looked great this season. Like you have to assume it's not all the quarterback, although a big part of it is the quarterback. And also, I think we have to talk about it. Like this was why I had Daniels lower than some of the other quarterbacks, like Drake May, like Michael Penix, in the draft process. It's like, I mean, he's a slender guy and he takes a lot of hits. Like it sucks, but like this is part of why I was concerned about him.
Yeah, and I mean the play too was like he ripped off a huge run. I think it was a 46-yard run, and I'm assuming this was the play because he like got flipped over basically on the tackle because he didn't slide at the end. But he was trying to break away. It was a weird play, but yeah, brutal hit. And yeah, I mean I agree with you. Rib injury sucked. I punctured my lung once. That wasn't fun.
Yeah, does not sound fun. Let's move on. Speaking of not fun, let's talk Thursday night football. Here, Kyle, a game that I missed live. I actually rewatched it this morning. Before Kyle, that's how crazy I am. Before all this football started, I watched a football game to prepare.
Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is the game where you want to watch it fast forwarding through all the breaks, so I can watch it in like 35 minutes. I think that's the ideal way to watch this game.
Yeah, this was tough. I do feel really bad for Spencer Rattler being thrown into this situation. I still didn't even think he played that bad. But like, it's really hard when like this team was built on 2 receivers in Alvin Kamara, and 2 receivers are out, and Alvin Kamara didn't play particularly well. Like, and then not to mention it was a bad offensive line that's now an injured offensive line. Like, it looked really bad, man. So that's tough. And yeah, you could stick a fork in the Saints. Stick a fork in them. They're done.
Yeah, it sucks for the Saints. I mean, like, listen, I'm the biggest Saints hater there is, but like, this sucks. The fact that like they had a roster constructed to be a certain thing, and then it just completely has been derailed due to injuries. Granted, like, I mean, these guys kind of have injury histories now, so it is what it is, and part of it is, I mean, you have this offensive line that isn't very good that creates more injuries, so that's part of it, but it still sucks. Because like I don't know what this team could have done fully healthy, but it wouldn't have gotten blown out 33-10 had they been healthy.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, it wasn't a good performance, obviously, for the offense. All those missing pieces make it even difficult. And then the defense, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway was the defense isn't playing well either.
Yeah. I mean, this run defense is horrible.
Yeah, they got torched in this game on the ground. And like, I don't know what to do with this Bo Nix thing. Because like, I don't think he's like actively playing well, but like, I don't think he's playing bad either. But like, even for games, like I think this was a good game for Bo Nix. He still has plays where it's like he throws the ball directly between 2 receivers that both would have scored a touchdown. Yeah. And I know that one did go viral, and it's just one throw, but it's like that stuff seems to just happen a lot. Or he'll have like the one throw where it's like you just threw it straight to a defender each game. And yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. it's like he's playing well enough to win. I guess that's the thing.
He is for Denver because I mean, again, the quarterback is just one player. This defense is awesome. This Broncos secondary is so good right now, and
Yeah.
that's why they're in a playoff spot now at 4-3. Again, you look at the AFC, like I mean, you look at the Chargers. They look like a playoff team. One of the Steelers or Ravens will be a playoff team, and then it's like that. That 7 seed. Like I mean, the Broncos are probably the team I'm picking. Right, them or Cincinnati can get going, but like. They have a really good chance right here. I agree. Bo Nix he's a fine quarterback. I am not buying into Bo Nix as like a franchise quarterback as of yet, but like
Yeah.
it's kind of what I expected Bo Nix to be. Was like just like a solid quarterback. He's not going to embarrass himself. He shows up. He's going to make plays, but like yeah, too many missed throws. I mean, he had a handful of missed throws. You got to clean that up.
I think at the very minimum, like he's at least convinced you to the point where it's like you have to add receiver talent around this guy. Because I
Oh
continue
yeah.
to say like the biggest thing with Bo Nix is like they're so reliant on him to be good because there's just not enough offensive talent here. And
Mhm.
like I don't know, like I even watched like the Patriots game compared to this game, and it's like Hunter Henry would be a huge upgrade for this team. Like that'd be a huge addition.
Uh-huh.
And like Hunter Henry's had a very good year. He's a good tight end. Like he's not like a world changing thing or anything. So yeah, I just think they have to add another option or two.
Yeah. The Broncos play the Panthers next week. That could be you expect that to be a win. Then they play the Ravens and the Chiefs a couple weeks. So before playing the Falcons the week after. So, interesting part of the schedule right here. Can they hang with some of the better teams in the league? We will see. But yeah, Kyle, that is our show. Again, what a week of football. We still have I think a very good Monday night slate of the Buccaneers playing the Ravens and the Chargers, Cardinals, two good games. Kyle, I've taken the lead in our picks for the moment. We still have to see how my lock goes. You could get it back. You could tomorrow night. You could have the lead again, but it's been I've been red hot lately, Kyle. You haven't even been bad. It's just I've been hitting my picks.
Yeah, not going well for me, but it's okay. We'll bounce back. It's a long season, and we're not going to panic right now.
Yes, a long season, much like the 49ers. Hey, it might be the tough stretch, but we just still plenty of time left.
Yeah, 100%. And just as we said earlier, don't forget our show for Wednesday is now on Tuesday next week, and then we're going to do we're not doing a live show Sunday. You're doing a off the sideline recap.
Yes, I should mention that. So I'm just going to upload a video. I'm not going to do it live, but I'm just going to upload a video tomorrow. I'll give my quick thoughts on, or not tomorrow. That'd be weird if I did it tomorrow for the following week. No, I'm going to do it next week on Sunday. Next week's show will not happen, but we will be, back to a normal schedule after that. So, yeah, Kyle, I guess I'll see you before then. But are you excited for London?
Very excited for London. My
Yeah.
soccer team is not playing well, so I'm not really looking forward to the game, but
Oh no.
it'll be cool to be there. So
Yeah, cool. I'm going to Ireland like 3 weeks after my weddings. One of my fiance's coworkers is having a wedding in Ireland, and so
oh
we're gonna
shoot.
spend like a week there after that. So it's cool, but it also kind of sucks because you have to save up so much money for the wedding, and I have to save up like an additional like travel fund on top of that. But we're making it work.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot. Because I got a lot of travel plans coming up. Doing Scotland next year to go see Oasis live, so that'll be fun. But yeah, a lot going on. For Drew Magus here, my team is West Ham, so we do play Manchester United, so I will see Manchester United live. But no, I'm a West Ham fan, so hopefully we can get the win next Sunday.
What that's on a Sunday?
Yes.
Is it when is it? Would it be my time? What time is it? Like our time?
So it's at 3 o'clock London, so that's like 5 hours. So it's like a morning time here.
Okay. I might check it out. Root for your guys.
Yeah, it should be on NBC Sports or USA, I guess, because NBC Sports doesn't exist. So yeah, definitely watch.
Okay. Well, Kyle, let me know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
And make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. It should be available there. We will be back Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, to preview all of Week 8 and talk about the Monday night games. Yeah, Kyle, any final thoughts?
No, let's get out of here.
All right. Again, thank you, everybody. We do appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.